and co-founder of DLA Ignite. With me today, I've got Alex Abbott, and we're going to be talking about walking digital corridors. I'm not quite sure what that means, but I know that Alex is going to tell us all about it. Alex, where can people find you?
Hi, Tim. Great to be here. Best place is LinkedIn. You can also, let me say, given that it's Mental Health Week in the UK this week, you can also book a call with me by using the Chat with Alex link on my LinkedIn profile if anyone out there in sales is suffering with anxiety.
Fantastic. And I've had nobody else. You're the first person to offer that.
Okay.
That's good.
There we go.
So, Alex, you've been in corporate sales for years, haven't you?
Yeah, 23.
23 years. And you've worked for a number of medium-sized and large US software companies. I think we could call them that.
Yeah, I would say mainly they've been US, actually. In the heyday years ago, that was a good thing because I used to get to travel to the US for quarterly business reviews. One company was Boston, one was Denver,
right?
One was San Bruno, I think it was in San Bruno in California. So yeah, got to go to the US quite a few times, which was nice.
And you've worked and taken the family and lived in Dubai and in Australia.
I have, yeah. Australia back in 2012, which
your
was a bit
youngest son was telling me about how much he loved Melbourne.
Okay, yeah. We lived in Melbourne for 7 months. Yeah, and that was 2012. Dubai was nearly 3 years, 2015. Yeah.
Great opportunities. But the thing is that you've got a very broad understanding of the sales process and also not just a UK or, you've got this wider view of selling in the Middle East, selling in Australasia, in et cetera, et cetera. Would you say that you've got that?
Yeah, it's an interesting one actually, because, often I've also run European sales teams. I think there's 26 countries in Europe, if I'm not mistaken. Seems to kind of stick with me. And when I was in the Middle East, the region was 103 countries and God knows how many different languages. That was Eastern Europe, Middle East and Africa, including Russia.
Okay,
yes. The region. And when I moved to Australia in 2012, I was a sales rep. And one thing that's kind of stays with me is the fact that, within 7 months, so I kind of landed on the 2nd of January. It was there 7 months, but I managed to do 3 deals. I was a sales rep at the time. So I managed to close 3 cross-channel MarTech deals, which was kind of unheard of, brand new territory, no network. And so kind of when I heard from people that I then managed later on in my career as a sales leader about, well, you can't do this because it won't work, or things are different in Germany, things are different in France. It kind of didn't sit that well with me because they all felt like excuses. In fact, I remember when I was running the team based out in Dubai, I had this guy who was living and working in Turkey, and Turkey was fast becoming one of our most successful countries. And there was a military coup, I want to say 2015, 16, where there were quite literally tanks on the bridge. It was across the Bosphorus. And our clients' offices were being missiled, quite literally. And he had his most successful year that year. And so, it took a lot for me to believe excuses from sales reps about, challenges that they were faced with. One thing or another.
And then you went and started working for yourself, didn't you? So you've now been running your own company for, what is it, 3 years now?
Yeah, 2 and a bit years. Well, actually, almost 3 years. Almost 3 years.
Right.
Yeah.
And so when you started that, what was it that you were trying to do?
That's a good question. I think if I'm honest with myself, when I first left the corporate world in 2020, in May 2020, so we just kind of entered lockdown, a couple of months into lockdown, but the wheels were in motion to already leave. I remember taking the summer off. Well, obviously I was off, not working anyway, but it was a beautiful summer, if you recall, in the UK
It was
in
actually
2020. So 2 or 3 months in the garden, didn't know what I was going to do. Tried reselling another MarTech software, but took several months to win the first client. I thought this isn't going to pay the bills. And it was sort of later on in that year, 2020, around the December time, that I thought, well, I've got 23 years, at the time, 22-ish years experience in B2B sales. And I was pretty good at it, good at selling, good at building sales teams. Why don't I set up a B2B sales consultancy that provides, services based on what was in my head? And I think I underestimated how difficult it would be to take knowledge from your head and package it into services.
Yep.
So
Been there, done it.
we started off providing sales as a service. And my 2 eldest sons were on furlough at the time because of lockdown. So they were looking at, well, what's Dad up to? I'd like to get involved with that. So they started working with me, and we were providing this sales as a service, me providing sort of go-to-market sales strategy consulting, and they providing the kind of the outbound, the execution,
So like a cold calling service.
SDR, yeah, exactly. Cold calling, cold email.
Okay. So as you say, SDR, so sales development representative type. Yeah. You okay, Alex?
Hello?
You're right there, Alex.
Tim?
Yes.
Oh, yes. I lost you for a second.
Oh, did you?
You may have had a power cut or something. Could you still see me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Screen went black. Where was I? Yeah, so we were providing sales as a service on a retained basis. And so this was kind of December, January, this was happening. And then February, we won our first client.
Okay.
And then we subsequently won several clients, and things were going really well. But then we were struggling to make those clients successful, no matter what we tried. Cold calling, cold emailing. We were designing quite sophisticated sales cadences. We even got to a point where we were designing webinars, in-person meetups.
So in effect,
based on
to try and get round the cold aspects, you were trying to warm the calls up.
Yeah, we were exactly that. So we would use the webinar as a way of engaging through email, giving the prospects, giving the audience something to attend, and use that as a way of engaging with them further. In some cases, we were getting 700 or 800 people registered to these webinars. So we're doing all of the outreach, the registrations. We were managing all of the follow-up. But we were really struggling to get the level of engagement that would then turn into meaningful conversations and pipeline, which is what our clients expected.
Yeah. So what did you do? I mean, this is the problem that everybody's facing. Anybody I talk to, pipeline is down, and in fact, it seems to be, there seems to be this constant, and whether I'm talking to you in May 2023, whether there's going to be a downturn or a recession, but there seems to be this thing where cold calling or warm calling or whatever that we've done it doesn't seem to be working anymore.
Yeah, so we we relied on the retained business to, you know, to cover the costs of the running of the company. And so we made this decision to try, you know, to move away from that model and change it. So we invested in the DLA Ignite social selling program. So I put my team through that program just over a year ago. Actually, we started it in the Feb last year, which, as you know, is a 3-month program.
I know well.
You do indeed. And we went about kind of mastering the art of social selling. And it took us, I would say it took us several months before we considered ourselves experts.
Yes.
But
Well, I mean, it's a change of
then,
it's doing something different, isn't it? It's so there's a change process that you're going to go through, even though selling is the same. Selling is selling.
Yeah, and the biggest change is the mindset, and you know, social is different things to different people, and
It does.
when you start to think about it as a way of working, it becomes a far more natural thing to do on a daily basis. And we went from how do we create the time needed to do social selling to, well, actually, this is now the way that we work. It's the strategy.
So, I mean, what in terms of, if we go back a step in terms of the cold calling or the warm calling, what results were you getting through that? Do you remember?
Yeah, it varied. We, depending on the client, you know, it was sometimes a couple of calls a month for a client to, you know, maybe at best we would get between 4 and 6 in a month.
So three of you cold calling were getting 4 to 6 meetings a month.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There was one client that we were focusing on B2B, where we were doing a combination of calling, emailing, events. And it was, to be fair, it was probably when we started the social selling journey quite early on, and we managed to get to between 4 or 5 meetings a week. But it was, you know, when we became good at social selling, I say, between 3 of us, we were getting, well, our average was about 10 meetings each per week.
Right.
So a massive change from when we were doing the kind of the traditional cold outreach.
Yeah. I mean, that's, and that being an average, I mean, I you know, I know your 2 sons, Jordan and Jensen, you know, you've got, there's a 22, 23, 26, and you who are, you know, what, 25?
Yeah.
And you know, you've got different, I mean, what's interesting is the fact that there's different levels of skill and different levels of business acumen, and that's not a negative thing about that you know, Jordan, Jensen, or yourself. In fact, it's a really interesting in the benchmark that you've got these different levels of skills. The worst thing you could have would be to have everybody all the same.
Yeah. In December 2022, so you know, 5-6 months ago, we went kind of all in on social selling and influence. And the beginning of January, we started our own analysis of our own performance. And we track a number of things that we believe
you have the data to back this up. This isn't just, I think it's this.
No. We decided on the things that we were going to measure, which we believe are leading indicators or leading measures of success for generating conversations and ultimately revenue. And for me, the beauty of it is the fact, as you say, we've got a range of skills from, you know, 2 years junior SDR to experienced SDR / sales rep to, you know, I say sales leader, but I've been a business leader covering sales, marketing, and customer success in the past. So I
Yeah.
would consider myself as a business leader, and I'd recommend all business leaders do social selling. But yeah, the point is we've got, you know, what, 3 different people with varying levels of experience in sales, and we're measuring a number of different data points each week and then aggregating that up to create a set of social selling and influence benchmarks, which we can hold.
And if anyone's watching this and they would like to review that, you would be happy to talk to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
So my understanding from the comparing the figures, you're getting a 9% response. So from 100 people that you, and remember, this is using social for cold outreach, you're getting a 9% response. So 9% of the people that are, and this is an average figure, 9% of the people are saying yes, they will take a call. And with any call, the objective is to get a next action, whether that's a demo or whatever conversation. And 33.6% on average are basically saying, yes, I'll take another call.
Yeah. So it's 9% that we sit the call with. They don't just agree. We actually sit the call with them. And yeah, 33.6 agree to a meaningful next step.
Right.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. There's no other, there is, that I'm aware of, there is no other cold outreach approach that performs better than that.
I mean, that changes sales and marketing, period.
I think so. I think
so. I'm just going to let that drop. So what's this stuff about walking digital corridors? Then we called this presentation, well, this interview about walking digital corridors. So what's this walking digital corridor stuff then?
Yeah, so for me, I wanted to use a term that painted some sort of picture in people's minds, because like I mentioned earlier, social selling means different things to different people. Now, I know we call it social selling because that's what our clients are looking to buy. But actually, I think the opportunity for businesses today is to empower their people, not just their salespeople, their organization, to walk digital corridors safely and effectively. And if they do, if they do develop their personal brand, if they do focus on activating and growing their network, and if they do create content that makes them stand out and look different, people will walk towards them. Their target audience, that business's target audience, will walk towards them and therefore their company.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because if we put forward and assume that we live in a digital first world, and follow the data, which is the fact that we've moved on to digital, then for me, walking digital corridors kind of makes sense, because it's, in the past, we may have gone to an office. Now, what we need to do is actually understand the rules of engagement about walking onto digital. So LinkedIn, as an example, or Twitter, it could be any social platform.
Yeah.
And knowing the rules of engagement in terms of having conversations with people rather than spamming people and turning them off.
Yeah. So you'll recall I did a webinar for the Institute of Sales Professionals where I talked about this topic, and I did a poll, and I just want to kind of replay a couple of the questions from that poll.
Yeah, no, that would be good. Yes,
relevant for this conversation. But one of the questions I asked was, what is your most effective form of prospecting? And bearing in mind, most of the attendees, if not all of them, were sales reps or sales leaders. It was overwhelming. More than 70% of them said in-person networking was the most effective form of prospecting for them.
Yeah.
Second question was, how often do you get the opportunity to do in-person networking? I was surprised at the answer with this one, but 52% said they would only do in-person networking once a quarter or annually.
Right.
And 13% said that their company actually didn't let them out to do in-person networking. Now, the closest thing you get to in-person networking is social selling. The problem is people think social selling is doing a few posts and sending some DMs. And it really isn't. The most effective form of social selling is doing networking on social, looking for topics, pieces of content that your target audience are interested in, and you insert yourself into the conversation. You perhaps give the guys a wave who have interacted with that piece of content by reacting to it, or you drop a smart question or an intelligent comment in there to encourage debate and conversation. Almost, similar to when you're in a real life networking situation where you've kind of scanned the room, you know who you want to chat to, you walk a little bit closer, you perhaps put your ear, trying to listen to the conversation, take another step closer, and you wait for your opportune moment to ask that question. And then all of a sudden you're in the conversation. It's exactly the same in social media. The problem is nine out of 10 salespeople don't know how to do that effectively.
Yeah, I think, whenever I've been to in-person events, there's 100 people in the room, and I only know that 5 people are probably really used to me. And I always spend the whole of the evening talking to the people that are no use to me.
Yeah.
Having these conversations and me thinking, you're no use to me. I need to go and get another drink, make an excuse, bring this one and go and get. Whereas with social, you can sit there in your. I can sit here in this room and say you're no use to me, but you are, and I want to have a conversation with you, and then focus in on that. So there's so much efficiency gain that you can have by doing it in that particular way. But people are so socially awkward on social media. They don't know what to do. I engage with people in having conversations, and I can see them, I just imagine them sitting there going, my God, what are you doing?
Yeah, indeed. Only 9% of the attendees said that they enter a networking conversation on social daily. So 91% of salespeople are not doing it.
Yes.
And then we look at some data that came out of a webinar that I attended yesterday. The VP of Growth from Pavilion was talking about the fact that the average quota attainment for reps last year was 23%. And then we get 160,000 layoffs in Q1 2023.
Yeah. And then we have someone doing a cold calling day where the likelihood that they will get any meetings off the back of it, or if they had a social selling day, they would actually get by a factor of 10 more.
Yeah, exactly.
Alex, just to say, thank you so much for coming on and talking about it. And we could talk about this for ages, but I need to keep it short. Otherwise, if I don't keep it to 20 minutes, people don't watch it when it goes up on YouTube. So remind people where they can get hold of you again.
LinkedIn, drop me a DM, or schedule a call with me, chat with Alex on my profile. I look forward to speaking to you.
And Jensen Abbott would like a copy of the statistics if you've got them, please.
Yeah, pop round, Jensen. I'll give them to you.
Alex, thank you so much for coming on and talking about your journey. I think it's fascinating. And what you're doing with your team at Supero is just, I mean, if I say it's awesome, I'm kind of it's a modest understatement, really.
Yeah, brilliant. Appreciate that, Tim.
Thanks, Alex. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.